This video has been heavily censored because YouTube does not believe in free speech. If you'd like to hear the uncensored version, you can do so on my Rumble channel, linked in the description.
Okay, we need to talk about the... In fact, that we're talking about anything else, indeed everything else but the... is to me both proof of and a heartbreaking indictment of humanity. Okay, I exaggerate for effect. We are talking about the... We, the salty rank and file of the movement, are talking about it. Subject matter experts like Drs. Peter McCullough and Robert Malone are talking about it. Certain renegade politicians such as Senators Malcolm Roberts and Gerard Rennick here in Australia and Andrew Bridgen in the UK are talking about it. Even big names with a degree of mainstream cachet such as presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are talking about it. But we, as a society, are not talking about it. Even as continue to punctuate our daily lives. A friend of mine in his early 40s died just last month, struck down only 6 weeks prior by the terrifying new turbo cancer, recently described by Dr. Ryan Cole. Article linked in the description. I'm told my friend was and this is just the latest in a string of sudden and otherwise young and healthy people whom I know personally. The previous two being a young man in his 30s and a teenage girl of 14. And this is to say nothing of that now dot my personal and professional networks like acne. Even if one were to keep the blinkers on and look at such occurrences in isolation of the bigger picture, which clearly shows a trend of excess against pre-baselines across all countries where mass the implications are virtually undeniable. I personally knew 0 young, healthy people afflicted by rampant cancer, strokes and heart conditions pre. Now I can count these on 2 hands. How about you? Do you know anyone who's recently... Do you know anyone with... Anyone in what would have previously been considered a low-risk age bracket who has suffered a... or some other mystery illness to which the doctors simply can't or won't attribute a cause? I'd be interested to hear in the comments. The evidence is so overwhelming at this point that I don't even feel I need to cite sources. Skeptical? Sorry, friend, but you're on the wrong channel. Go do your own research if you need proof. There is mountains of evidence out there. Suffice to say, other than the names I've already mentioned, the work of Ed Dowd, Steve Kirsch, and Naomi Wolf and her Daily Clout team's analysis of the documents might be a good place to start. And I mean start, because the rabbit hole goes deep. So overwhelming is the evidence becoming that the conversation is making its way into mainstream institutions such as the Australian Senate, as Malcolm Roberts and others raise questions about the courts, as Dr. Melissa McCann leads a class action of to sue the Australian government, and the government itself now paying out compensation. These and many more examples, both from Australia and around the world, are cause for hope that the conversation may yet enter common discourse, and thus kindle the fire necessary to burn down this, the greatest lie ever told. But as yet, in regular day-to-day situations, continue to be a topic that one raises at great personal risk. Such is the ferocity with which most still cling to the safe and effective narrative. There are various reasons for this reticence, including the sunk cost fallacy, shame and embarrassment, denial, and plain old hubris, And it doesn't really matter what a person's reasons are for continuing to endorse the official line on the point is, it is still a widely held position, not only among everyday people, but across the media, government and health sectors too. One of the most effective gauges for the viability of this topic is the NSFW test, not safe for work. Can you openly discuss the in your workplace? Or do you need to pick your conversations carefully and speak in hushed tones? I don't even need you to reply in the comments to that question because I already know the answer. In the vast majority of cases, the discussion of is not safe for work. And although I have a couple of friends in my office with whom I'm relatively comfortable talking about it, I just don't. Such is the air of tension that still surrounds this issue. I feel bad about this, but I give myself a pass on the work front. For the time being, I need my job. And rocking around a corporate office space spouting anti-doctrine is a good way to become a pariah and paint a target on one's own back. Everywhere else, however, I let my thoughts be known, often at personal social cost. I'm fairly certain my girlfriend's sisters think I'm a loony. But such are the trials of the truth seeker, and I begrudge them not. Nor do I particularly begrudge those who scoff at me. For as Mark Twain supposedly said, it is easier to fool people than it is to convince them they have been fooled. And as I have often said, the fight to free the minds of our brothers and sisters still stuck in the matrix will be a long, hard slog whose conclusion is unknown. Who I take serious umbrage with, however, are those in positions of influence, nominally on our side in this fight, who ought to know better but continue to sit on the fence, or even shill the official government talking points on the issue, or who simply remain silent. It's time to throw down the gauntlet. We've now had 2 years of solid, continuous evidence of it has been established beyond a reasonable doubt that the so-called as was claimed over and over and over again by every institution which we've been brought up to trust and revere. It is clear, given the findings of the Pfizer documents analysis and many more besides, that of previously unimaginable proportions was employed to on a terrorized and trusting populace. It is clear, as I've repeatedly stated, that this is a whose ignominy is possibly unprecedented in history. And thus I reject any so-called member of the truth movement who still refuses to take a stand on the issue. I call out all supposedly anti-establishment figures who remain silent on the or attempt to dodge the issue with vague platitudes about being pro or who concede some of the but plug the alleged benefits in the same breath. I reject and call out the likes of Tim Pool, Douglas Murray and Donald Trump, and the many others who talk the talk and claim to be fighting on the side of freedom and truth, but do not walk the walk. I've had enough. As far as I'm concerned, this is the critical issue, without discussion of which all others are peripheral and inconsequential. And it will remain so until society acknowledges and confronts it en masse. For this to happen, we need our thought leaders and influencers to take up the mantle. Not just some of them, but all of them. This is the great matter of our time, and it will remain so until justice is done. This is not something that we can awkwardly shuffle off into the back bedroom and mothball until all those who stand to be humiliated by its unmasking have passed on. This matter defines us, and hundreds of years from now our descendants will judge us on this singular issue. Our actions as individuals and as a society in the next few years will furnish our historical treatment. Our normie friends may know no better for the time being, and we will do what we can to free their minds. But who are we? Who are we but lone voices in the credulous crowd? The weird conspiracy guy in the office. The one who talks politics when everyone else is trying to have a good time. The loony brother-in-law. We can try, but we will be lucky to convert 1 in 10. We need our influencers to lead the way, for their voices are far more impactful and their reach vast. Their conversion rate may be as healthy as 5 in 10 or more. And unlike our normie friends, these people have no excuse for ignorance. Any luminary within the truth movement has ample access to real experts and information about and to defend the likes of Tim Pool, Douglas Murray and Donald Trump for their ambivalent positions is not only naive, but dangerous to the movement. The time has come to call out these so-called leaders of the resistance, because at this point, anyone taking such a position is at best damaging the movement for the sake of their own greed, cowardice and pride, and at worst, controlled opposition. There, I finally said it. For the longest time I dismissed the controlled opposition trope, and I still approach it with caution, but it's definitely a thing. How could it not be? We have spies in our midst, spooks, double agents, and plain old grifters. Am I going down the rabbit hole here? You're goddamn right I am. As I discussed recently, the rabbit hole is where we begin to unearth the truth, murky and narrow though the way may be, and the embrace of disingenuous actors simply because they claim partisan solidarity with us on certain convenient issues is akin to the one-dimensional normie conception of knowledge that I spoke of in the same video, linked in the description. Enough is enough. It's 2023, fellas. How in God's name are you still dodging the Joe Rogan is talking about it. Russell Brand is talking about it. RFK is talking about it. One can call those guys controlled opposition all one wants, and many do, but at least they're naming the elephant in the room. The time has come to rally around this marquee issue and separate the wheat from the chaff. I have reserved my judgment on Tim, Douglas and Donald for many months now, and the many others besides them in our movement who've been dragging the chain. And to publicly call them out like this is painful. All three have been sources of great inspiration for me on my journey out of the machine. But I can no longer have truck with such apparent charlatans. Do I still prefer Trump for president? Sure, I hope he wins, for whatever that's worth, which I'm growingly convinced is very little. Will I still listen to Tim's podcast and read Douglas's books? Maybe, but I'll do so with a good measure of salt. Moreover, I don't trust any of them. And that goes for anyone who claims to be on our side but refuses to honestly confront this, the paramount issue of our time. Enough is enough. This is the hill I'm willing to die on, and you're either with us or against us. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. Please also subscribe to my Substack at jjdawson.substack.com. And if you'd like to keep in touch, please do follow me on X at RealJJDawson. You can also follow me on Getter, Gab and Minds. And of course, if you enjoyed this, please do give it a like and share it about, because it really helps me out.